meeting today. So previous lecture we have started with unit number 3. Uh, One most important part that before starting I just would like to brief out. That is okay. We have started with unit number 3. The points what we are basically very small chapter but very important one. It is pure theoretical to understand the need of OMD subject and what are the advantages we are getting by using object oriented analysis and designing. Means advantages compared to the since the similarly concept we can see is when we are interacting or when we are discussing or when we are comparing it with the procedure oriented language. Compared to that, what advantages we are getting in object oriented language. Similarly, the same concept we are going to discuss over here. The points what into the previous lecture we have discussed use of programming language and database system. That part we have covered already, but no doubt we will revise it once again. Then we are going to discuss the style for the object oriented approach. Then we will discuss features or rather we can say advantages of object oriented languages. And then what else, the applications of object oriented modeling and techniques. So basically object modeling techniques or this part we are going to discuss as a part of a implementation perspective. So let's start with the basic idea. Object modeling techniques, as we already know, so it's a primarily used by the system and the software developer to support full life cycle development while targeting object oriented implementation. So being as a developer or being as an software engineer, whatever else part I will do, I will consider each and everything in terms of an object, and based on object I will decide attributes, I will decide its operation, and I will club them as a simple part of class, and with respect to class I will implement each and everything. That is what the concept of object modeling and technique parts. Then how these models will look further. So we can say that this is the simplest way to understand the OMT is in terms of the three models. The first as an object model, second as a dynamic model, and third as a functional model. The object model means, as I rightly said to you, each and everything in the project we will treat simple as nothing but an object. So that object may be virtual, that object may be conceptual, or that object may be in the real world perspective. We will treat them only as an object. Once we could able to find out an object, we can able to apply the characteristics of an object. That characteristics are state, behavior, identity, roles, and responsibilities to an object. And once we define the four characteristics of an object, we can try to combine the objects, similar objects, similar attributes will club together. We will call them as a class. And with respect to class, again we have the four principles of object oriented programming language, that is abstraction, encapsulation, modularity, and hierarchy. That based on that we will try to organize each and everything. That concept we simply call as one object model. Second is a dynamic model. As the name suggests, dynamic model, as the name suggests, it is just a behavior based on what we can say inputs. What kind of input you have given, based on that how your object is going to get moves from one side to another side. That part we will discuss as a part of dynamic model. And then functional model, as the name suggests, it is just a basic structure. So sometimes we will call it as a structural model also. So dynamic model and static model. So static model represents simply structure. So basic idea, functions, how my procedures are going to get implemented, or we'll talk about my simple object data flow only will be discussed as a part of a functional flow. And to represent it, we can use the data flow diagram. That part in detail we have discussed. Now, when I'm talking about OMT, that is object modeling techniques, it can be implemented in four different phases. The first phase is analysis phase, second phase is the system design phase, third is actual implementation, and fourth one is object design phase. So let's discuss analysis phase. As the name suggests, Simply remember, analysis is nothing but investigation. We will try to find out what the problem is. That is what analysis. Once we could able to find out the problem, we could able to write the solution. That solution would be in terms of some design parts. So I'm calling it as one system designs. Then next is implementation. So that implementation means I can simply say that whatever the points I have identified, I just would like to implement it in terms of translating simple designs into a programming language. Means in this phase of OMT, I will try to write the code. So in some cases, if my class diagram is ready, I can able to generate the code also. So that code kind of an implementation will be done inside this OMT. And the next is object design. As the name suggests, object design phase comes after the system design phase is over, means before going to start for the implementation. So object design is concerned with fully classifying the existing and remaining classes by giving their roles and relationships. So simply inside this system design, we perform the lower level design. Higher level design will be performed in case of object design. So that part also we have discussed into the previous lecture. Now moving towards the next, we can say that when I'm talking about the implementations of OMT, that what does this basically OMT in terms of implementation perspective, because as implementation comes, that implementation nothing but the coding phase. So that coding phase means programmer or a developer, whatever design part is there, will try to write the code for the same. So that code, writing the code is nothing but implementation. Similar concept is there in the civil line. If I take example of a civil line, the civil engineer prepares the blueprints. That is called as what? Diagrams. After completion of the blueprint, civil engineer hand over that blueprints to the workers, and workers goes on actual construction. That workers supposed to go for the actual construction exactly same as the blueprints. The same concept is there in the implementation of OMT. Whatever the software engineer or design engineer has prepared the diagram, same concept should be get implemented into the coding part. So that is what one of the most highlighting point at this moment is. Writing code is nothing but it is simple and extension of the design process. So whatever my design part is done, same process should be get implemented next into the coding standards. So writing code should be straightforward, almost same as a mechanical process. Don't think at a your side. Whatever designer has shown, we will try to simply, we need to simply convert it into the development phase. So because all the difficult decisions should be already been done during the design phase. So whatever the things designer has made by taking surplus thinkings, or maybe taking the reviews from the experts, by interacting with the end users, taking the feedback of the end users, and then design is finalized. Once the design is finalized, developer just need to follow the same things whatever mentioned into the design part. So the code should be has to be with an intention, that the code should be a simple translation of the design decisions into the peculiarities of particular language. Decisions do have to be made while writing the code. So try to be convert the same diagram or the same thing whatever there is in the diagram into the coding standard. So coder has to just put the logical parts. So just need to use the syntax, maybe using any programming language. For example, we take example of C++ or a Java. So the code remains, means what we can say, sorry, the basic logic remains same, only the syntax part is going to get changed. So the program code is the ultimate embodiments, solutions, outcomes of the solutions to the problems. So the way in which it is written is important for maintainability and extensibility. Whatever the advantages of object oriented programming language we are going to get, one of the highlighting advantages extensibility, means why small code is there. Suppose I have developed the system for 100 students, and in future I got 1000 students. So whatever the programming I done, I could able to extend it up to 1,000 also. That is kind of an extensibility, kind of a feature that object oriented programming language supports. Next part is maintainability. Maintainability means easy to understand and more easy to perform the maintenance, because one of the never ending phase of the software development life cycle is maintenance phase. Undergoes continuous improvements, suggestions, feedback. That cycle process goes on. So it must support that cyclic process that we are calling as what, simply the maintenance. So the ultimate aim of the programmer or the developer is to write a code in such a style that in future, if needed, I should able to extend my code. And also the way I'm going to implement the software, it should be going to go for maintenance. So it must support the continuous maintenance of my product. That is what one of the expected part from the developer side. So this kind tells us about the coding ways. So in some lines or in some companies like Infosys or Wipro, or if you go to an IBM, they tries to put some standards over there at their side. And whenever you are playing the role as a developer, they will ask you to go to that standards, just like a Java standards, or just like to any other programming language. And your task is to write the code, then you simply need to follow that rules and regulations. So that is nothing but the way you have decided to go for the implementation. That implementation phase of the OMT simply focusing on writing the code for the given product. So most executable language are capable of expressing the three aspects. So being as a developer or being as a software programmer, we should able to understand the data structure. We should able to understand the dynamic flow of a control and functional transformation. Means simply we need to understand the declarations, the way variables are declared, the way assignments has been done. Second part is control flow, means the program is going to move by line. So we should able to understand that as a part of a control flow. And third is whatever the assignment, means values you have assigned, variable values you have assigned, we need to understand it throughout the program. So simply we can say that the data structure is expressed in a declarative subset of a language, like integer a. For example, if I'm saying integer a, I'm declaring variable a of a type integer is equal to, I'm assigning some values, for example 5. So it is just in a declarative subset of language, which is a non-procedural. Then statements that are used to declare the data structure are sometimes mixed with the procedural statements but are not executable. The same thing what I said to you. So traditional languages are purely procedural, though the programmer can implement non-procedural constructs as a data also. So simply what I can say that implementation of an object-oriented design is easiest using an object-oriented language. But even object-oriented language vary in their degree of support for object-oriented concept. Yes, correct. In case of C++, object-oriented concept, and in case of Java, the object-oriented concept. Both languages support the object-oriented concepts, but the way they implement are something different. For example, multi-level inheritance and multiple inheritance. And sometimes we may face a problem in case of multiple inheritance implementation in case of Java. So each language has its ups and downs, or pros and cons. Sometimes we get better security, sometimes we have to compromise with the security, sometimes we get greater flexibility, but sometimes we get a problems to implement levels and all these parts. So that is what the way, though you are thinking about the basic normal concept of object oriented, but the way language you are going to choose to write the code will play an important role. So each language represents a compromise among the conceptual power, correct, efficiency and compatibility with the previous work. Absolutely correct. So any language like object oriented or non-object oriented, it is a tool that can be used well or poorly. So simply what they are saying, it is up to the developer how they write it. So object-oriented programming can greatly improve the expressiveness of the programs. Yes, compared to all, Still, object-oriented programming language is the best choice. So it is just an any craft. Good programming requires disciplines and adherence to the principle of good style. So you just need to understand, being as a developer, we need to understand some ruling names or some syntax. For example, in learning a Java, how to declare a variable, how to give the name to the variable, how to assign the values. All these parts comes as a part of styles. So we need to understand that styles as a part of a implementation perspectives. The way we studied the programming language part, the same concept should be applied to the database parts also. That also we have discussed. So the same concept, the way we implement the database part. Earlier there was simple DBMS system, that is database management systems, which will only work with the three concepts like data definition language, data manipulation language, and data control language. So DDL, DDM, data definition language, DDL, data manipulation language like DML, and data control language. Data definition talking about how to design and how to develop the database. Some queries will be there. Then data modulation language, where you can able to update the database, whether you can able to work with the database, etc. And in case of data control language, it will be talking about implementation perspective. In the implementation perspective, you can say that the database what I am going to write, whether it is having a security concern or not, or it is open to all, whether who is able to perform what kind of an operation, like data manipulation language, or in terms of a data definitions language, administrative rights are there or only the users rights are there, or only I can fire the query, I cannot update the database. Such type of things will be discussed in the case of DCL, that is data control language. It is talking all about the database systems. Then we can discuss about the next part, that is called as what, object oriented style. So object oriented style, as the name suggests, the highlighting part is what, being as a developer or being as a coder, I need to understand the some styles, and what are that styles are known as good programmer styles, so that they can able to write the code. Because one programmer may be sitting in Hyderabad, one may be sitting in Chennai, or some may be in out of the India also, with the different locations. So understanding their working scenario, understanding lot of diversity is there. So in that diversity, they should able to understand one common platform. So that common platform is to make whatever the developer are trying to write, make it understandable to each and every person in the team. So some rules are there. Just excuse me. So we'll discuss some object-oriented styles as a part what the developer or the programmer or the coder has to perform. So good programmer do more than simply satisfy their functional requirements. The programmers that follow proper design guidelines are more likely to be correct, reusable, extensible, and quickly debugged. Most style guidelines that are intended for conventional programs also apply to object-oriented programs, correct? In addition, facilities such as inheritance are peculiar to object-oriented and require new guidelines. We represent object-oriented style guidelines under the following categories, though may guidelines contribute to more than one category. So the basic intention, apart from the coding standards or the skill of the developer, what the company's perspective is expecting, that whatever the code I am writing for one particular project should be able to usable for my upcoming projects also. That concept I am calling as what, reusability. Second is one, though I am writing a program or writing a project for intention of only 100 customer at this moment, but in future, if number of customer is going to get extra, that should be supportive, it called as what, extensive. Then kind of a robustness, as the name suggests, robustness means again it is kind of a supporting with the different scenarios, or kind of what we can say toughness, and then we can discuss in terms of a programming in large. So let's see one by one. If any doubt, any query, you can disturb me in between. Don't feel that the session is only the monotonous, that I'm only speaking and you all are listening. If any doubt, any query, you can disturb me. Any doubt so far? Any question for me? Reply something. Yes, no. Am I audible? No reply. Yes, Vaishnavi. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Moving to the next, highlighting characteristics of object-oriented programming language. As the name suggests, it is reusability. As the name suggests, if I extend it, reusability. Usability means already done. I'm using it, but for next purpose, is it possible for me to use the same code just by doing small modifications? No doubt, as it is code, highly impossible. But whether it is allowing me to do some small kind of a modifications and allow me to use for the next purpose, that concept I'm calling as what? Reusability. So reusable software reduce design, coding and testing cost by amortizing efforts over several designs. Absolutely correct. Because if I'm going to use the same code by doing small changes, means my analysis part will be saved, my designing part will be saved, and of course my testing part will be get saved. So the development life cycle is minimized, effort is minimized, so cost of the product will be again reduced. Or in company perspective, I can say that I can earn huge earnings in shortest period of time. So the reducing amount of a code also simplifies understanding, which increases likelihood that code is correct. So reuse is possible in conventional language, but in object-oriented language greatly enhance the possibility of code reusability. Why object-oriented programming language is famous? One of the best reason is it's a reusability. So when I'm talking about reusability, I get three options over there, or the three styles while I'm using the reusability concept. The first is kinds of reusability, for what different kinds I can use it. Then style rule for reusability, how I can use. And is next is up to the inheritance, what level of inheritance I'm going to implement. Accordingly, I will get the concept of reusability. So let's see one by one. Kinds of reusability. See, I can use in two style. One is newly written code within a project. Means if I have written a code for one module, for example, I am talking about developing a software for the calculator. In a calculator, I have a different functionalities like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and in division. And one of my team has written the code for addition, and their code is ready. Same code I can use for the next module in the terms of a subtraction, because subtraction is nothing but addition of negative numbers. See what I am saying? Subtraction is nothing but it is again addition, but addition of negative numbers. So the same code, but just by using small changes, I can use that is it. So newly written code within the same project, or reuse previously written code on the new project. If already one project is ready in previous year, and this year I got a new project, but similar type of that project. For example, last year I did the software development for HDFC Bank. Now this year I got an opportunity to interact with State Bank of India. So banking concept same is there, only the part is what the naming conventions or the rate they are calculating or the schemes, but the base rule remains same. So same code I can use by doing small changes. That is what reuse of previously written code on new projects. So that kind of a reusability you can discuss. Next is what? Style rules for reusability. Here how you are going to use the same code, maybe within the same project or maybe from the previous project. So it says about Keep methods coherent. The same method as it is, you can use it, or keep methods small. One of the highlighting expecting part is what if the complex task is there, we can divide it into smaller parts. So that is keep method small. A method that extend one or more pages is probably too large. So by breaking a method into smaller parts, you may be able to reuse some parts even when the entire method is not reusable. That is true. If the whole method I cannot able to use, but if I divide that method into small parts, I can able to use different parts. So that is also one of the structure that I can use. So keep methods constant. Similar methods should be used the same name, conditions, arguments order, data types, that also you can use. Then again, one of the highlighting part I can mention is maintain parallel structure whenever possible. So like just like Unix operating systems, inconsistent functions but supports the parallel scenario, so that working style or the execution becomes more faster in that scenario. Then third part is by using inheritance concept. As the name suggests, inheritance means parent characteristics, or in child class we will try to use the parents in that parents may be multi-level inheritance or multiple inheritance, so that preceding guidelines improve the chances of inheriting the shared code. So sometimes, however, methods on the different classes are similar but not similar enough to represent within a single inherited method. So we can use subroutine concepts also there. So what is subroutine? So simplest approach is to factor out. Factor out means making it in again smaller parts in multiple or in terms of a iterative scenarios out the common code into a single method, that is called by each methods. So common method can be assigned to an ancestor class. This is effectively a subroutine, and I can see here method A, method B. Common method, the same method will be used by A and same method used by class B. So I'll write in common method, and whenever required I will simply call in the respective class rather than writing it for individual class. So that is also a kind of a reusability. uh, After reusability, the next important part is extensibility, as the name suggests. So extensibility means what we can say. A simple example I told you is what number of users or number of classes you are using. uh, Simply remember example of extensibility is earlier just 100 users were there, but suddenly if the number goes beyond 100, for example because of that some 500 number is there, whether your software supports it or not, that is called as what extensibility. So most software is extended in the way that its original developers may not expect, but the guidelines for reusability enhance extensibility as well. So how we can use it? They have said that by performing encapsulation classes, that you are already aware about this. So I'll not waste my much time on these parts, because you did in second year C++, you did in the Java also. Second is hidden data structure part. Okay. I'm talking about the robustness, as the name suggests. Robustness, nothing but strength, hardness is what we can discuss. You should strive for efficiency in writing code, but not at the expense of robustness. Efficiency also there, and robustness when so expected. So method is robust if it is not fail even if it receives improper parameters. It means if wrong input has been given, for example, just its support for it means not able to generate the data, but it allows to enter it, will fall it and will display the error page. Rather than going the failing entire system, it should able to display the message on the screen that you have entered the wrong message. That type of a robustness should be there. So robustness against the internal bugs may be trade-off against the efficiency. The robustness plays a vital role to decide the efficiency of the product. So robustness against user errors should be never sacrificed. That is true. So protect against error. Software should protect itself against incorrect user input, should never cause a crash. If something goes wrong and the system entirely the system is going to get fail. And if system fail means its availability is get reduced. If availability get reduced, it will impact on its efficiency. So need to understand it very well. So any method that accepts user input must validate input means input that should cause the method designer must consider two kinds of error conditions. So the person who is as a developer and writing the method could able to understand if, see, many times we face the problem that user understand or the developers ask us, or the any application ask us to enter the name. We normally enter our name like just first name, middle name, last name. But in some case of an applications, like you are writing an application for EBC or applying for any government scheme, they highly mention that you need to write surname first, then first name, and then middle name. But still some students knowingly or unknowingly enters wrong data. It should take that data, will convert it into probably what user has entered and what user has expected, and should able to display rather than stopping over there. What happens if I enter the wrong and it is again asking me continuously, so that whole system becomes blocked for that particular user. It should not happen like that. So whatever you have entered will be displayed and will give a chance to correct it. That kind of a robustness should be there. Next is programming in the large perspective, where I can say that programming in the large refers to writing the large complex program with teams of programmers. I can understand as a part of a human communication becomes paramount on such projects and require proper software engineering practices. While I'm working with this part of a programming large, I need to take into the consideration of the following guidelines. The first one is do not prematurely begin programming. Means it is important to first complete the generic thought process before comforting the course of implementing target. Means you got the problem statement and just in simplification you have started to write the code. It does not happen like that. You have to understand the problem statement. You have to go through thorough the design part what is assigned to you, understand the design part, sorry, sorry, and then start to write the code for the same. All the software development methodologies emphasize the importance of first designing and then coding. Yes, true. So anyhow, you cannot escape any of the phase of the software development life cycle. It should be always like analysis, then designing, then coding, then testing, and then deployment. You got the problem statement, and without performing analysis and designing, you have started directly coding. It should not happen in any case. Keep methods understandable. The same point is there. Then make methods readable. That is what concept of reusability, re-understandable. And the naming convention, the standard names what you are following should be throughout the programming styles. That is what one of the highlighting part that we need to take into the consideration. Any doubts so far? Because before going for the next concept like object oriented programming language features, I just would like to give the demonstration part. I'm just using the star UML here. Stop sharing. I will share my whole screen. I'm starting with the star UML concept. Okay. Where I will create just a small programming part that in whatever previous part we have discussed so far inside the class diagram. Open the project. Okay. I will create here one class diagram just to understand. Class diagram. Select the class diagram. Okay. I'll give the name, for example, login page. I'll say simply home page, and then I'll add one more class over here. Add class. I'll create these three classes. I'll give the name simply as a home page. This class I will give the name as welcome page, simply welcome page. And one more class I have where I will display as error page. So my basic class diagram is ready. I'm showing it with kind of an association relationship. Okay. And basic attributes that I can add over here, like select this particular class attributes. Just I'm adding attributes. I will add here as first only the user ID part. Ready? Just for the simplicity, I'll add here UID. Close this part, and I will add one more operation for the simplicity only. Add operation. I'll select enter login details. Only this part. I'll save this. Okay. Just imagine my complete class diagram is ready. Only class diagram is ready. Now, once you complete the class diagram, Pooja, at what time our class is expected to be there? Be on time. Okay. What I'm showing to you, just imagine my complete class diagram is now ready. And once my class diagram is ready, I want to see the most important feature of object-oriented programming language is once my code is ready, I can able to generate the code for given part that we are going to call as a forward engineering. If I'm going to generate the code, in how many language I can able to generate the code? It supports all object-oriented programming language. For example, if I select this class and I can right click, at this moment, it supports me to generate code in C++, C Sharp, Java, like that. For example, I'll go for a concept called as what? Java. So for particular code, particular class named as a home page, I just want to generate the code. So I'll select this particular class. I will right click and I'll select the option Java. I'm getting here option generate code. So that generate code means from design parts to the code. That process is called as what? Forward engineering. I will show you first forward engineering and then I will show you reverse engineering. So let's see, I'll repeat the step. Select the particular class, right click, select the option in which programming language you want to generate the code. For example, here I'm selecting the concept called as what? Generate code. Select this. Okay. So I'm getting the error here. Java profile has not been included. I will include it. So you need to go to the tools option, select the Java. Okay. Select the Java profile, say include, close this. Now select this particular class, right click, Java, generate code. Okay. Select in which view you are there, in the logical view, keep as it is. Okay. For how many classes you want to generate the code? Only for the one class. Select that particular class, home page, next. Where you want to put the code, I will keep it on a desktop only. So select the desktop, see here. Anything there on the desktop right now? No. So select this, say next. Keep everything associated, generate empty documents. The name you want to give, for example, project, I will say TCSC E division, file name, login, home, date. I will put today's date just for my understanding. So today is 22 April 2021, and author name, if you want to give, you can give all these details. For example, author at the rate, suppose I want to enter my name there. By default setting as it is. See, I'm getting the message here, Java code generated successfully. Green color means no any error, nothing. So say OK and finish this part. So my code is ready on home page. Dot editable class I'm getting over here. Edit this. See here, generated by star UML. If you want to remove this, you can remove. These are just a simple help line. See, project by default it is coming. Homepage.java class name I have given, date and author name is also there. See here, you can see now. I have generated code for home page. Inside this public object UID, yes, UID is there. Then error page, yes, one more class is there, and one more unnamed class I'm getting there as a welcome page. Yes, welcome page is also there, being it is association. Only the relationship I have defined, so their name it is get declared. Remember this. Then I have one method over here, function or behavior. So enter login details. The same naming conventions is coming. So this concept we are calling as what? Concept of converting diagrams into the code. This concept we are simply calling as a forward engineering. And if just imagine my code is ready, and if I want to make changes in the code, whether the same changes implemented in the code designing or not, that concept I'm calling as what? Reverse engineering. Now see here, I will add one more object attribute. I'll add one more attribute inside the code just to check whether the same part is implemented in the diagram or not. So let's see here. I'll add one more in the simplest manner. In case of user ID, I will simply write it as a password, PSD. I'll save it, save. I'll make the changes inside the code. I'll close the code now. I'll select this, right click Java and select the option reverse engineering. I'll select the option reverse engineering. Select it. Okay. Where your particular class is there on the desktop home page. Yes, it is. Add this file. In which file you have made the changes. Select this file and say next. Logical view, say next. And keep by default settings as it is. So I'll keep only the run option. Okay, finish this part. Okay, one more separate class is added, home page 1. Earlier only home page was there, and it comes with the object 2 password. Association is there with error page and welcome page. So if you want to add this, you can just simply the relationships over here, change the relationships with this. You can select this class and you can delete this. So from code also, I can able to generate the parts. Now I can combine this with this, and again one more class with this. Put this. So view models. This is layout diagrams. So this represents me reverse engineering concept also. So I have just demonstrated it. So See the what we can say, the once you could able to perform a proper designing part, your almost code will be getting ready. If I complete with this all the parts, again I am able to get my all executable codes over here. Just by need to do the small changes in the coding part. See, this is what the magic, or I will not say the magic part, but it is the way you complete the design parts. Once your design part is ready, you can able to generate the code. Is this clear? Yes. I have just demonstrated a small part to you. Is it fine? So that we can take a pause for the today's session. Next lecture we can start with the object oriented language feature parts. We'll go for attendance round. Okay.